Welcome back to the RedBeard Outdoors podcast. I'm Jonathan, your host, and we've got a special guest for you guys today. We've got Kyndra Leigh. And Kyndra is a member of the First Phorm community, has been for just about 3 years now. And she trains in the app and does a bunch of other things that we'll get into here shortly. But I wanted to bring her on to the Why First Phorm and First Phorm Outdoors episode and series because she has a unique perspective as a mother. She's got a 7-year-old, but then also recently, I say recent, within the last year, so a 7-month-old as well, and was going through the whole staying fit and active while she was pregnant and getting outdoors. She was shooting her bow, and that's kind of how we connected. And I said, after you've had your baby and gone through your transformation after having children or having your baby, then let's get you back on the podcast to kind of talk about that journey, which turns out has been quite the journey. So I'm excited to share that with you guys from her perspective. But for people that don't know who you are, Kyndra, who are you?
Well, I feel like I wear many hats. Obviously I'm a mom. My husband was military, so I was a military spouse. We're still heavily involved though. Though he's not in the military anymore, he's probably gone more now than when he was in. I used to be a professional ballet dancer. I don't know if you knew that, but
I did not know that.
yeah, I've been retired for quite a long time, but that was kind of my first passion in then getting into the fitness industry. That's kind of where it led me. So then I became a personal trainer and nutrition coach, and I was doing it on my own for a while. But I wanted something more. I wanted to be a part of something, and I wanted honestly a little more guidance. I was a little bit lost in where I wanted to go with my coaching. So joining with First Phorm, I have learned so incredibly much. As a coach, just on my own personal journey, it has helped me tremendously. So I use the app for my own workouts, my own nutrition tracking, and then as well as my clients. And I saw a huge difference in using the app for my clients as well. And then obviously I'm a mom, so again, many hats.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's awesome. And no, I didn't know you're a professional ballet dancer. And that
Yeah.
takes a level of intensity and skill and dedication that, people that I'm not much for going to the ballet or watching it, but
Not
I've
many
got
are.
daughters. I've got one that's yeah, right. Yeah, it's not for everyone, but it's definitely very athletic sport. It's very much like gymnastics in a way where it requires your entire body to
Hmm.
be in time, like your mind as well, because you have to be keeping that time, which blows my mind too, that dancers don't really listen to the music. If you guys don't know this, by the way, if you don't have daughters or haven't been, through any kind of dance, anything, like you're keeping time in your head. You're not necessarily listening to the music and dancing to the music. You're dancing to just 2, 3, 4, like
Hmm.
whatever the count is for
Yeah.
that, you're keeping that in your head the whole time. And it blows my mind. It's something that has been cool that I've got an older daughter that is she was actually invited to audition for the Utah Jazz Dancers. She chose not to do that. She took a different career path, but like she was in competitive dance all up,
Hmm.
through the end of high school and then took a different route. And my younger daughter is also getting into that competitive dance. And that is, guys, I'm telling you, it is a whole nother level. So the fact that you were a professional ballet dancer, I'd say ballet is probably one of the most strict of all dances when it comes
Yeah.
to technique or disciplines. The dance
Yeah.
discipline,
I'd say
ballet is
both.
definitely very,
And
yeah.
even when I was teaching, there was some studios that do a bunch of different styles, but it was
Hmm.
always required you have to take ballet, because if you
Hmm.
can have a good clean ballet technique, then you can do any style. So it is very important. There was always girls who, preferred jazz or hip hop, and so
Hmm.
ballet was boring, but I grew up in a very strict academy. It was literally an academy. And it was very serious.
Hmm.
I mean, if you had your hair not in a hairnet, she would kick you out of class. If you had holes in your tights, she would kick you out of class until you sewed it
Hmm.
yourself and came back in. So I learned very, very young, like, that discipline. So I feel like that's why getting into the fitness industry was kind of a perfect fit, because after I left ballet, I was still teaching for a while, but I was lost. Like I literally danced from the age of 4 till my late 20s. So without
Mm.
it, I felt like, who am I without this?
Hmm.
You know, and it is very, very intense, but it taught me a lot of great life skills and discipline as well.
Yeah, for sure. I've had people comment to me that Andy Frisella is OCD, and that's really why the way he is. And I'm like, well, maybe, but it's more about paying attention to the small details. And again, ballet is one of those things that even at the young age with, my 7-year-old, she doesn't necessarily get kicked out of class, but we do hear from the teachers like, hey, next time, if she doesn't have her hair like this or her
Hmm.
specific outfit or whatever, she will not be able to attend class, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's very disciplined, which I think is good. It teaches kids, there's that discipline. And then there's also like my oldest daughter had a teacher one time that we ended up pulling her from that studio because of this teacher, but she would walk around with a ruler and smack their butts and be like, hey, I
Hmm.
don't want to see these cheeks jiggling and I don't want to see these cheeks jiggling. And I'm like, okay, now that's a different level of discipline that I'm
Yeah.
like, that's teaching a little body dysmorphia. But the discipline of
Yeah.
making sure your tights, yeah, making sure your tights are good, making sure your outfit's good, making sure your
That
hair's
you
on point,
present
which is part of the
yourself
outfit.
well. Hmm.
Exactly. In accordance to what you're doing. That makes sense to me. And that ties right in with First Form and Andy's style. If anyone's ever been out to headquarters, like there's no cleaning crew. They all have cleaning designations that they do because he got tired of people being lazy and not picking up their trash. And so like
Hmm.
he's very much like pay attention to the small things and then the big things will happen because you are so disciplined on the smallest of things. So
Hmm.
all of that to
100%.
be said, it makes sense that you tied in with First Form, like when you stopped dancing and then you were kind of looking for something to do, you went into fitness and training, which is a great tie-in because you've been in fitness through dance, and understand your body and body movements and things like that.
Hmm.
And so you got into that, and then what was your journey from there?
Um, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. It was like starting over. I went to school for a little bit, was trying to figure out, I was going to school for radiology.
Mm,
And I just, school is just not for me. Like it wasn't really what I wanted to do. So,
yeah.
then I'm trying to think of how I like initially got into it. I think because I was just wanting to be active again. So I
Mm,
started going into the gym and I started to mentally feel better. And I realized how good it made me feel, not so much for, the aesthetics of it. And then I realized a lot more about myself actually, just with there is a lot of body dysmorphia. I still deal with it to this day. With ballet, yes, it taught me a lot of discipline, but there's some negative things it brought with too, like being a perfectionist, like those small details, like you were saying, but then there's sometimes when I expect things to be, a certain way, and when it's not,
mhm.
I get frustrated. So, um sometimes that still affects me to this day, but I really think like once I started getting active again, I started to feel better and like, okay, maybe this is my thing. So looked into getting my certification. So I went through NASM, the National Academy of Sports Medicine. I started
Mm.
off just getting my personal training cert. And then from there evolved into getting my nutrition. And then once I became pregnant, I actually got my certification for postpartum, so that way I can try to help more people.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's definitely and I didn't realize there's a certification for that, but it's something that's needed because, you know, being a man, I don't deal with necessarily the all the hormone changes and everything that happens when you're literally creating another human being, but
Wow.
I've seen how different pregnancies have affected my wife and that each child's different. Just because it's the same woman, being my wife, getting pregnant doesn't mean that her body's going to react the same every time. It could be, you're a year older, or it could be just the way that baby is reacting with your body, and like so many things that go into it. And then afterwards, I mean, just knowing the basics of all the chemicals that get your body dumps back into your body once there is no more baby, and your body's trying to re-regulate and get things back to where they're supposed to be, and trying to figure it out, and it's freaking out because there's not a human inside of you anymore that there used to be, and
Yeah.
all of this stuff, going back to equilibrium is hard, and sometimes you don't even really ever hit the equilibrium that you were pre-baby, because your
Yep.
body just doesn't remember what that equilibrium was. So all of those things being said, you recently went through a journey of your own, which, I said I wanted to have you on the podcast after, because I wanted you to be able to walk through kind of even just a brief overview of what you've gone through, whether it was an amazing experience, which obviously everyone hopes for, or you had to overcome some trials and struggles, which you were mentioning pre-podcast, that you had some stuff that you were dealing with that you had even thought you had prepped for, but they
Hmm.
blindsided you in a different way. And
Yeah.
so, kind of walk us through, obviously you're happy you had the baby, and then your journey to get back to your fitness journey and your happiness and where you wanted to be over the last 7 months.
Yeah. So, like you mentioned earlier, I have a 7-year-old and then a 7-month-old. So it's quite a gap. We felt like we were starting over a little bit, but we were super excited. We wanted another one. It just time had just passed, and we're like, okay, I'm 35 now, so we're like, it's got to be like soon. And no matter how even if you've been through it before, there's just nothing you can really do to prepare for how you're going to feel after, because like you said, each
Mm-hmm.
one is going to be so different. So as much as I thought I could prepare myself mentally, because after my first, I really struggled with postpartum depression. I was on antidepressants for about 2 years, finally got off of that, and I really just didn't want to be on it anymore. Not that I'm against it or anyone who does, it just, I didn't like the way it made me feel. I felt kind of
Mm.
like a zombie, and like I was just coasting through life. So
Yeah.
anyway, with my daughter, we were super excited. My son has been the best big brother, and it's been amazing to see him, you know, grow into this new role. But after I had her, I was in this, I was not like depressed or unhappy. It's kind of hard to explain, but I felt just very like I just wanted to stay in this bubble. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel like posting on social media. I didn't really want to go on social media. And like I was always posting every day. I had content ready to go. And I just didn't feel like being on it. Not that it made me feel a certain way, I just had no interest in it. Um, and with her, because I knew she was going to be my last, I was just really soaking in all those like early days. And, with my first, everything feels like a blur. And then with her, you kind of just know a little bit more of what to expect in that way. So instead of it just being a blur and I'm just trying to get through and get to the next like stage with her, I really embraced it and enjoyed it. So I wouldn't say I was so much depressed, but I did feel like, as far as coaching, that I needed to take a step back, just because, I'm very big on leading by example. And I felt at the
Mm.
moment I just couldn't do that. And I still very, very well could have coached, but I was not in the headspace, I feel like, to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband travels a lot for work, he's gone a lot. So it was really just me and the two kids trying to figure out this new dynamic. Um, and we've also got chickens, we've got a farm that I pretty much take care of on my own, and the house. So I kind of just felt like I can't take care of any extra people right now. I just
Mm-hmm.
need to focus on my family, and hopefully I'll be ready. And all my clients understood, they gave me so much grace, and I'm the one that's so hard on myself. There comes that like the blessing and a curse part of it. So I was really upset, feeling like, I'm not doing these things. How can I expect my clients to do these things, when I'm not tracking my food, or I'm not really exercising right now? So I was definitely very hard on myself in that way. So that was really like the biggest thing. And I did seek out some therapy. So I was doing with BetterHelp, and it did help kind of put things in perspective. And he did mention that it doesn't sound like postpartum depression. It sounded more like, um, what did he call it? Adjustment disorder. So I was still just trying to figure out how to adjust to everything. And so I think that's really, the biggest struggle I had in trying to just find myself again, but also give myself grace at the same time. And allow myself to just enjoy this time. I don't need to rush back into things, and I wasn't trying to get to my pre-baby body, because I competed before, like right
Mm-hmm.
before. So, that's even now, that's not my goal. Like, yes, I want to eventually compete again, but right now it's just getting back into the groove of things and finding myself again, but still being able to, you know, be a good mom and be a good coach and make sure that my cup is still being filled and I'm not just
Mm-hmm.
completely drained. So I
Yep.
finally feel
No.
like I'm in that good place where I have that balance.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's definitely one of those things that and for people that don't know what she was talking about competing, so she competed in excuse me, bodybuilding prior to getting pregnant and having her baby. And so that can also be a big deal because the time and dedication that it takes to do a bodybuilding show is very hard. It's hard on your body. It's hard on your mental health.
Mhm.
Because you're just talking about being hangry. Like I've never gone through show prep, but man, I can only imagine when you start cutting those calories, and not just calories, but cutting water as well. Like you probably won't be able to be the best mom or dad, if you're a dad in this case, um, in that situation that you would want to be, you know, for your kids. So, I can definitely see that that's not, and it's okay that your priorities shift. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. And knowing that and not closing the door on it and saying, eventually I would like to do this again. That's awesome that you've got that set there, but also again, your priorities have shifted. And so, it's something that I think a lot of parents, especially mothers, need to hear, that it's okay to not immediately go back to having your six pack abs or whatever may happen.
Hmm.
Like I know my wife's commented on it a couple of times that there's a couple women out there that she's like, man, I wish I could have had these, because my wife had C-sections with the last two. So that destroys your body even more
Yep. I had a
than
C-section
than
with
having.
her.
Exactly, exactly, and that literally rips you apart,
Yep.
more than having the baby naturally. And so she was dealing with that, which I think a lot of mothers deal with. I know, my wife dealt with this, and I'm sure you went through it a little bit as well. That what was wrong? Why couldn't I have the baby naturally? And almost feeling like a failure, when in reality,
Hmm.
like from my perspective, I'm like, I'm just glad you're both alive. I'm just
Yeah.
glad I'm just glad you're
Yeah.
both here and present and not dead, right? And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
another thing too that people don't realize. Childbirth, like we take it for granted that everything just runs smoothly. That's not the case. Like, and of course you
Hmm.
start finding all this stuff out as you're getting ready to go and have the baby. You're like, oh, this stat said, oh man, like I don't want to know those things. Stop telling me. Like, but it really
TMI,
is something
TMI.
that exactly. It's something that we take for granted, that the mom and the baby make it out 100% of the time. That's
Yeah.
really not the case. And so, it's something that I really do feel like the women out there listening, and even the husbands out there, need to understand. It's not just the 9 months of literally building the human. It's
Yeah.
also the time afterwards of the readjustment and realigning your goals, seeing what the baby needs, but also not forgetting your own needs. Taking the time for you without feeling guilty that you're taking time for you.
Yeah.
Like there's so many things that go into it. So I appreciate you sharing that, because it's definitely something that a lot of people need to hear and recognize that they're not alone.
Yeah. And that mom guilt or dad guilt is real. And it's funny because my husband hears me, when I talk to my clients, and
Mhm.
I'm always telling them, like, they have a lot of them are moms. And so I'm like, you got to make sure that you take care of you too, so you can take care of them. And then it was like the roles were reversed. I felt like,
Mhm.
I knew all these things, but it's like I even had to be reminded of it. So he was like, you know, you tell your clients all the time, you have to take care of you. So I ended up getting a membership at the YMCA here in town. Where we live is like way out in the country, so there's not a lot of options gym wise, but this was perfect because they have childcare. So I get 2 hours of childcare. And so I pretty much go Monday through Friday. And it's just like my time for up here.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the rest will follow is kind of how I see it.
Yep.
And yes, I eventually want to compete again, but I'm not in a rush. I'm just kind of enjoying the journey right now. And
Mm-hmm.
I love that she, you know, can come with me and hopefully grow to see, you know, I can set a good example for her. Just like with my son, he's seen it. I've always taken him to the gym with me. So I want the same, you know, for her too, that it's okay to take care of yourself. And you do sometimes feel selfish. And especially with bodybuilding, it's a very selfish sport. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a very I had to kind of work things around where I would get up at 4 in the morning. I'd go to the gym early in the morning, get back so that my husband could go to work. I would still take care of, you know, my son, get everybody fed, and they would eat their food. I ate my food kind of thing. They'd order pizza sometimes. I had a watch, but you know, you still gotta,
Yep.
I still was able to find that balance. So now adding another kid into the mix, trying to find that balance again with my husband's new job, traveling a lot, it definitely took some time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, and I felt like, oh, I don't have time to go to the gym, like you're gone all the time, you know, and I was making those excuses that sometimes I hear my clients say. And so he kind of had to like, you know, remind me of that, like go get a membership at the Y, like they've got childcare. And so yeah, I'd have to say like he's been very supportive and has helped me, you know, in finding myself again and just taking care of myself again.
That's awesome. That's really good to hear, and
Yeah.
it's cool that you've got such a supportive spouse. Like
Yeah.
that's very much understated. I feel like people are starting to talk about it more and more, but I still, love highlighting the spouses. When there's a man that's really successful, I could almost guarantee you there's a woman behind them that's taking taking care of all the crap that
I
he's not
try.
taking care of behind the scenes, right? And the same
Yeah.
same vice versa, where when the woman's in the spotlight and she's got things that are doing great, whether it be in business or whatever it is, there's a man behind the scenes that is helping
Hmm.
and taking care of it. And so it kind of bugs me when I see these things that it's like, I don't need a man or I don't need a woman. I'm like, you're right. You may not, but guess how much more successful you would be if you found the right one.
Yeah. They should be
You
an
know,
addition. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. It's something that it's not a plus either. The equation, when you're on the same path as your spouse, it's not an equation of me plus her. It's an
Hmm.
equation of me times her. It's
Yeah. I love
exponential
that.
growth that happens because it's not just, like I get 50%, she gets 50%. It's all in, right? And that's
Yeah.
that's really that's really how it is. And so um I love that he's very supportive of you. That's really cool and kind of reminds you of, hey, you tell your clients this, you should probably take your own advice,
Yeah, I mean, he did. He put me in my place for sure, but I
Mhm,
needed it though.
mhm,
I think I needed someone to, you know, give me a little bit of guidance or give me not permission, but just like remind me that it's okay to
mhm,
take care of myself, you know, that I need to, especially with him being gone all the time and me going to school drop off, school pickup, packing lunches,
mhm,
baseball practice, you know. And so I felt like, I don't have time to take care of me. You know, I've got chickens, I've got stuff in the field that I'm growing, and I've got weeds to pull, you know, all kinds of stuff. And I just kept making up all these reasons why. And he was just like, you know, there's moms that work full-time jobs that, you know, you're telling them, you know, you need to take care of you, and you know they are. So it's like, you're right, you know, I need to take my own advice on that. And it was really hard, I think, mentally with the C-section too, going back to that real quick, because that wasn't my plan, obviously,
mhm.
but you got to do what's best for you and the baby. So I had about 2-ish weeks to prepare myself and kind of understand, you know, the procedure and um, I guess, recovery afterwards. So I did have a little bit of ab separation because they literally cut you open. So
Mhm.
it's taken a little bit of time to find my strength again because I had to really focus on healing my core. And it was definitely a harder recovery. I've experienced both. So
Yeah.
I do have to say, I think this one was harder in my personal opinion. Everything was smooth and great. I think
Mhm.
just the recovery, that was the hardest part.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. Watching my wife go through that too. That's and it's hard because like she's, and you seem to be this way too, just very independent and knows that she can do it. And the
Hmm.
fact that she had to
Hmm.
ask me anytime she needed to get out of bed or anything
Oh
she
yeah, the
needed my
same.
help. Like, yeah. And she was just
Yeah.
like, this is so demoralizing. I'm like, hey, guess what? Now you get to be stuck
Yeah.
with me even more.
No, it's so true because, like, even like you
Yeah.
said, just getting up out of bed, and if the baby's crying, because I was nursing at the time, so
Hmm.
I felt bad like waking him up, like, hey, can you bring
Hmm.
her to me? Because just you can't sit up, and you don't realize how much you use your core till you can't use it
Yep.
anymore. So it was just, I always felt bad, and we have a great system, and I know not everyone will agree with this maybe, but I felt, I'm a stay-at-home mom currently. I have my coaching business, but I do it all from home. He's gone a lot,
Hmm.
travels a lot for work. So when he's home, I want him to enjoy his time with the kids, play with our son. And I don't like to wake him at night. So like I just always get up. I'm never like, hey, it's your turn. Or, I've just never been that way. I felt like that was my role. And I know not everyone feels that way, but um, I'm just thankful for what he does for our family. So I felt like that was just, something I needed to do. And I was
Hmm.
used to it. So every now and then, I'm like, can you make a bottle or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's just how our system was, and it worked for us.
Yeah, my wife's the same way. She's like, I'm gonna do it all because the kids are gonna love me more. It's kind of a back and forth joke, right? Like they're gonna be mine, and and she's like, I
Maybe
spent
that's
nine
why I'm
months taking
doing
this
it.
kid, and they still go to you, That's but yeah, no, that's how she was. Like if she was waking me up at night, and it's not, I'm just a deep sleeper, so it's not like I
So is
wanted
my
to ignore
husband.
the kid, but like she immediately would wake up, right? And I know part of that's probably being a mom, but another part's
Yeah.
just the way she sleeps. And so if I was getting woken up in the middle of the night, I knew something was either wrong or she was just like, I'm done. I can't anymore. So no, I get that. And I agree. Not everyone's that same way, but
Yeah.
people are
Well,
built
and I was
different and some,
nursing too, so there really
yeah.
wasn't like, what's he gonna
Yeah.
do?
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
but yeah, now, I'm just used to doing it, and I think a part of it is
Mm.
a little bit of that, like, I don't like to ask for help, and he knows that about me. So there are times where he's like, when he's traveling week after week after week, and he's always home on the
Mhm.
weekends, by Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Um, there are times where I start to get burnt out, and so he's like, what do you need me to do? Like, I can tell you're starting to like
Yeah.
struggle a little bit, or I get like real anxious if I'm like
Hmm.
behind on certain things. So he always kind of has to remind, like, what can I do? Like, what can I do? And a lot of times I dismiss it. I'm like, nothing, nothing. Or, then I'm like, okay, now he's telling me to ask him. So can you unload the dishwasher? I don't
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
know.
Exactly. No, that's awesome. And you guys sounds like you guys have a good system.
Yeah.
With that being said, so you've got a lot going on. You've gone through this journey. You've overcome some trials, and even before then, like you were dialed in with your nutrition, with bodybuilding shows and coaching,
Hmm.
and you know, there's a lot to be said about sharing that with, especially the people you coach. I imagine majority women. They
Hmm.
probably want to hear that, hear your story, and that's again a big reason why I wanted to bring you on, because people like hearing stories of failure along with success. Because if they just go in and you've lived that perfect life, they eventually sniff out the BS and they're like,
Hmm.
okay, like this is a little too perfect. You can't tell
Yeah.
me there's nothing going wrong with Kyndra's life, you know. And it's just one of those things. It's like, you know, people will figure that out. But if you're open and
Yeah.
honest with them, obviously you don't have to share everything with them. But if you're open and honest with them, then they definitely will make sure that you are taken care of, and they'll relate with you more as well. That's
100%.
definitely a big thing too with the community. So, you know,
Yeah.
with sharing that and all of, why have you chosen First Form as your community to pursue your fitness and everything else, and continue with your coaching? And why First Form over anything else? So your top 3 reasons why First Form for you.
Well, first of all, I loved their product initially, so that's kind of what
Mm,
got me interested. And then it seemed like a really great community from, what I could see. And I loved the educational portion. When I was looking at becoming a Legionnaire, I saw everything that it offered, and I wanted to learn more. I wanted to be more educated. So that was a huge factor for me. And I do have to say, I
mhm.
have learned so incredibly much. I feel like I've learned more than, obviously my NASM course was great, but I feel like the way that they have explained things makes it so much easier for me to explain to my clients that's not confusing.
Yeah.
So I feel like I learned so much. And then along with that, getting to know people in the community and going to headquarters, and seeing, like, feeling that just the vibe there is just unmatched. Like,
Mm,
it's like nothing I've ever experienced. And
yep.
that really, like, sucks you in too, because everyone is just so amazing and everyone rooting for each other. And to be honest, like,
Mhm.
growing up in this strict ballet academy that I was in, people were not supportive. Girls were
Yep.
mean. They were nasty. I would come home crying almost every day because it was just not a great environment, and it was very toxic. So it was just so refreshing to be a part of something that was so inclusive, and everyone's rooting for you, and you can learn from other people and they're learning from you, and there's just so much room for growth. So
Mhm.
there's just so many positive things I could say about it. But the people is also what got me hooked.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So the community is a big thing.
Mhm.
Is there, what would be your other two reasons why First Form for you?
Obviously I trust the product. That was like, one of the first things was that I was already using their products, and I use them religiously even now, and I
Mhm.
feel like they've helped so much in my fitness journey in so many ways. I used the prenatal, all of that. So I felt like I was with a brand that I could trust their products, and then learning more with, their education of looking at these other products, and I'm like, wow, there's so many things that I had tried prior that would upset my
Mhm.
stomach, or I would literally be like drinking my protein shake and feeling like I had to throw up every time, and I thought that was normal, or um so yeah, I mean, just finding a good product, because I did, like, I tried so many different brands and stuff, and I was
Mhm.
having issues with a bunch of them. And so when I found theirs, I have had zero issues, and so I've just stuck with them ever since. So I just trust the product too. I trust the brand, I trust the product. So that's really huge too.
Yep.
And then
Yeah.
another one,
No,
I'm
that's
trying to
awesome.
think. So is that two? Is that two of them, I guess? Like the product
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
people, the
Community
community.
product.
Yeah, and I love, that there's so many different things, like the first Phorm Outdoors. At the time when that was kind of like being created, by Jake, I was living in a camper. So I was literally living the outdoor life. Um, we were traveling the country in our travel trailer for like a year. So we were like nomads for a while. Uh, after he got out of the military, but we traveled the country and saw things, and um towards the tail end of our trip was when I joined First Form, and then there was the First Form outdoors aspect, and I had just gotten into archery right before we left Virginia, And so it was still
Mhm.
fairly new to me. And when I saw like all of that too, I was like, okay, cool. And it really challenged me to get better at that skill. So there was just a lot of like cool different things, like not just about fitness. There was a cool community, but there was also these other things that they offered too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. I love it. And those are three really good reasons to be a part of the community. It's something that if people are looking for a community of individuals that range from people that are trying to lose fat to people that are CrossFit champions to like and everything in between, people that
Yeah.
enjoy hiking, people that just enjoy sitting on their front lawn on their days off and soaking up the sun. Uh, everything in between. Definitely come join the First Phorm Outdoors community on Facebook. And if you don't have Facebook, I'd say it's worth creating a Facebook just to be a part of that group because you're going to meet people literally nationwide that you can link up with, go form a hiking group or do whatever it is. There's so many things that are going on there. The community is just unmatched. And when there are negative things going on or when people do come in and maybe start picking fun like not in a good way, then we do make sure to, hey, you get a warning, this isn't what we're
Hmm.
about, and then if so, you're booted because we don't always agree with necessarily the rah being positive all the time situation, but also we're definitely never about tearing people down. And so that's something that that we really really appreciate you being a part of the community as well. And I think it's awesome that you're into shooting your bow, and obviously right now big into being a mom and doing the
Yeah.
best at that you can. So that's something that is really key, and you get to share that with other people. So with that being said, I really appreciate you hopping on today, Kyndra, and letting us know uh, a little bit about your story and where can people find you if there are moms out there that are listening that are like, I really relate to that. I want to reach out to Kyndra, see what she thinks about this, that, or the other, or even just people in general that want to hear more about ballet or fitness or bodybuilding competitions, all the stuff that we talked about today. Where can they find you?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me on here. This has been awesome. My Instagram is, where I'm most active. So it's Kyndra Fit, spelled Kyndra, and then there's a period and then fit. So don't forget the Y. I know it's spelled differently, but
Perfect. Perfect. So that's the best place for people to reach you. Guys, I will leave
yep.
a link down below where you can find that. And then the proper spelling, just in case you can't spell Kyndra, but she spelled it for you. So you guys don't have an excuse. Go check it out, guys. Go check out her page. Reach out to her if you have any questions. And I apologize if you can hear my dog in the background. Someone just left the house, so he's kind of freaking out, but he's still a puppy. So he's figuring out all the
Aw.
things going on. But with that being said, thanks so much for coming on, Kyndra. I appreciate you. I appreciate your story, everything that you're doing, and being a part of the First Phorm community. And for everyone out there listening, definitely go join First Phorm Outdoors community on Facebook. Come over there, join us, chat, share things that you want to learn, ask questions. Feel free to do that as well, and follow along on the journey from Kyndra as well. So, with that being
Thanks,
said, all the
guys.
links are down below. Thanks so much. Have a fantastic day. And of course, get out, live your life, and love it.